So when people go to the gym and they're like load up on sweat clothes, like sweatpants and a jacket, and they try to sweat as much as possible because that's sort of, for whatever reason, people think is a sign of fat loss. It's not. What it's actually doing is making your body use the minimum amount of energy possible to execute a function, because if it uses any more than that, it'll cook itself and you'll die. Really, we're just avoiding dying here, and you can use whatever side of that spectrum you want to lose or gain weight. 2018. That's trippy. I remember it being like 2003. Now it's like 5, turning 2004. I just had the sudden realization, wow, this number's just gonna keep going up. What's the first thing that comes to mind during the new year? New Year's resolutions. What's the first New Year's resolution that everyone and their mothers, uncles, cousins, dogs, sister-in-law makes is they want to lose weight. Yeah, I need a landmark to start, but that really isn't true. And it really is just kind of an excuse to be like seasonal about your inspiration to lose weight. Today, I'm going to piss off some people and then make them feel a lot better, and hopefully you take something away that'll make, if you have this New Year's resolution, make it 1,000 times easier to actually keep and then continue into other New Year's. So, point number 1, fats don't make you fat, which, that's sort of a growing understanding. Point number 2 is that fasting not only doesn't drop your metabolic rate, but is also a pretty vital part of dieting, as it turns out. And number 3, cardio is bad for weight loss. It makes weight loss harder and harder to maintain. In the spirit of passing on information in the new year, I've spent like 6 months dabbling around in this stuff, and I've basically reached a point where I can control my weight at will. And once you get past misinformation, once you get past like all the pseudoscience, it just becomes so much easier. And so I wanted to make a video acting as an aggregate of all the resources that I've found over the past 6 months. In the description, you'll find the videos that got me started in keto and fasting and like sort of team my interest. And then all the creators on YouTube that I always look to if I have a question. And other resources like KetoConnect is a YouTube channel, but it's also a food blog with like hundreds of recipes for keto. Because as all these new internet gurus are coming out, I guess the first question is always, why should you listen to me? Short answer, you shouldn't. You should go listen to these other people that I learned everything from. So, high fat, low carbs, it sounds like it's that doesn't make any sense based on how I've grown up, but I did it for 6 months. And I did it for the auxiliary benefits. I didn't do it for weight loss, but I just happened to lose like 15, 20 pounds, and I wasn't eating at a deficit. And that's just something I find asinine, but it works, so I figured I'd spread it. I think at this point I've just pretty much done my job. You could click off and go watch any of those videos and you'll be fine. But I did want to, we're like 40 seconds into this video, I did want to provide some insights that I've made that you will eventually reach using those resources, but might not be like painfully obvious in the beginning. I was on the heavier side from like 6th grade to 11th grade, so me like being a person that carries a lot of fat in just like chest and face first, I learned some little hacks in that time, but also just with the past 6 months. Fats don't make you fat. Keto is a very interesting thing. It's a state of metabolism, essentially, where you produce ketones for energy instead of glucose. The biggest insight that I'd want to say about keto is that the keto flu is really not a huge thing. Like, it's 3 days of kind of feeling For every person it's different, but for me, literally 3 days in, I was just comically grumpy for 1 day, and then the next day, switched into ketosis, had my energy back, and I felt better than I almost ever have. And I actually was making a journal for the gap year, and I explained ketosis and the ketogenic diet in the journal in one take in about 4 or 5 minutes. And I'm super ADHD. I've never been able to do that about anything in a video before. It always takes me even now, because I'm carb loading for the breaks at bulk, it always takes me 5-10 tries to do it. And then I go to edit, and then I realize I've missed half the stuff I wanted to talk about. Usually, most Americans, most people on normal diets anywhere, are in a state called glucogenesis, which converts carbs and other sugars to glucose, which is pure sugar that your body can actually process. The upside to that is it's the easiest to process, so you can really get explosive energy from it. But the flip side of that is your mental energy can spike and valley, which kind of makes you a little scatterbrained, and you also are generally more inflamed on carbs, so you hold more water weight. So when you start keto, first week you lose like 7-10 pounds of water weight. Well, at least I did, because I was like 190. So I lost about 7 or 10 pounds of water weight like the first week. And that's not actually fat going away. It is just water weight, but it stays off as long as you're on the keto diet. So it really helps with focus. It helps with a consistent energy level. And the reason why is, I'll get to that later, in inefficiencies and cardio and all that stuff. But basically, like, don't be intimidated by the keto flu. You're not gonna die. You're not gonna feel like you're gonna die. You'll have low energy. You might feel a little grumpy, and your digestive situation might be interesting, we'll say, for the first week, but it's nothing crazy. Something that would help to look up in the beginning is what supplements you might want to look into getting. For me, vitamin C, potassium, and magnesium. Just because you're intaking less plants, so you're getting less micronutrients, because you're getting like mostly the tissues and stuff like that, and fats, which don't really have any micronutrients. They're pure macros. So it's helpful to implement those. And then other than that, just make sure you drink more water than you usually do. If you drink a ton of water all the time, you're probably fine, but just listen to your body, look at the indicators of hydration, and if it looks like you need more water, drink more water, because your liver and kidneys will be in a state of shock trying to process all the fats for the first time in your life, pretty much, and so it's good to take care of them with a nice way to keep everything flushed out reasonably. Oh God, fasting. So this is a really trippy one for me, because all my entire life I've heard fasting is terrible for you. You shouldn't do it. It'll burn your muscle before it burns your fat. And I have no idea why that made sense to me. It actually never really did. I just believed it because everyone was saying it. Turns out, more and more studies are coming out suggesting that fasting is not only better for weight loss and better for the longevity of your weight loss, meaning once you get the weight off, you keep it off, but it's also a pretty vital part of like health in general, because of a state called autophagy. But in 2016, Nobel Prize in Medicine went to a study on autophagy. I forget the doctor's name, but you can look it up and read the actual study if you want. But essentially what it reached was a conclusion that if you don't undergo autophagy, you have higher rates of cancer and higher rates of disease. And the reason they approached it from that direction was because fasting is a pretty natural thing that we've done for millennia. And over the past 50 years, 100 years, when foods become more readily available, especially the past 15, 20 years, technology has us snacking more. We just don't fast. And at the same time, disease is like, it's not painfully obvious that it's more prominent because medicine's getting better. But this study with like control groups showed that if you don't undergo autophagy, you're more prone to disease and cancer. Autophagy has been pronounced autophagy as well, and that could sound familiar if like you remember your high school biology class, because macrophages are what your immune system deploys to basically destroy disease cells. In autophagy, it draws on all of those for energy because you're in a state of starvation. So when you do that, it purges all the pathogens that would otherwise infect cells throughout your body and possibly manifest into a disease or a sickness or flu or whatever. Just even a seasonal cold or cancer, which is, you know, a little more. But all this is outlined by Jason Fung's video, and he explains it a hell of a lot better than I can, as he's an actual doctor. What I did want to make sure that came across is, like, especially me being really just, I can't find enough hours in the day to do half the projects that I want to. Fasting isn't as intimidating as it can be when you look at it as an opportunity to do more stuff. Like, being ketosis, fasting's stupid easy. Like, because once you're fat adapted around the 2 or 3 month mark, you don't really, like, there's no transition stall between ingested fats and body fat. It just sort of will switch over naturally and pretty seamlessly. And so you can exercise 20 hours fasted and just feel fine. When you're on carbs, it's a little different because you're in glucogenesis and you have to switch to autophagy and then ketogenesis after a certain point, and then that's a little weird. But it still helps. Well, I guess I could stay on fasting forever, but I'll just list off some key points from Jason Fung's interview in High Intensity Health that kind of like struck me. So point number 1 is that people that lose weight fasting almost never have to undergo like tons of weight, like let's say 400 pounds to 150, they almost never have to undergo plastic surgery to remove excess skin, because autophagy does metabolize proteins, which is maybe how people construe like muscle, but skin is a protein, or like highly protein based thing. So as you lose the weight with fasting, it's metabolizing the skin as well, so you don't end up with all this excess skin because you've only burned the fat. That was pretty interesting to me. Point number 2, if you're strapped for hours in the day, there aren't enough to do the projects you want to do, like myself, and like I'm in school, I am working on an app, I'm working on a documentary, I'm working on like all this other stuff. I don't have enough hours in the day. You can use fasting to just generate more hours in the day while being healthier, because on Tuesdays and Thursdays this last semester, I only had one class, and I would fast breakfast to breakfast, Tuesday to Wednesday, Thursday to Friday, and I'd get, you know, a little bonus weight loss, but I'd also like feel pretty great. I haven't gotten sick once this semester, and I generated 4 or so hours in the day where I'm not thinking about food, I'm not going to the refrigerator because I know I'm not going to eat anything, and I'm not preparing or eating food. So when you look at it from that perspective, fasting is an opportunity that isn't purely like disciplinary. It actually like just directly helps something immediately. 3 is that maybe I didn't have a third point. I might not have had a third point. I'll come back to it if I do. So here's the last one, which is might find some resentment. I had to close my door. Anyway, in a fundamental sense, when you're trying to lose weight, you're trying to burn more energy than you're taking in. And the most visible way to do that is to take in less energy, but the easiest way to do that is to just burn more, because you don't have to take in less. You can eat as much as you want. And the way to do that is to chase inefficiencies. So when you're doing cardio, it's making your body work better. It's making your body work healthier. That's why you see this improvement, and suddenly someone can run for 23 miles while someone else can only run 23 feet. And they look pretty much the same. It's because all the systems in your body work more efficiently because you're demanding them to. Great for athleticism, fantastic for your health, not ideal for weight loss, because what it does is when you're not running and when you're running and when you're doing all the other exercise, your metabolic rate drops because it's running more efficiently, which in survival terms is a pretty good thing, but in weight loss terms is not. And I was mentioning it being cold outside and me being kind of chilly, because from 6th grade to 11th grade, I kind of figured out that in winter I could always shed a little bit of extra weight by just being cold. And the reason why is because when you're shivering and when like you're tensing muscles, like like your traps in your back muscles and like that's an instinct, because your body's trying to activate muscles and burn more energy to generate heat so you don't go hypothermic and die. What results is your resting metabolic rate is higher, and all you had to do was shiver a couple times. So when people go to the gym and they're like load up on sweat clothes, like sweatpants and a jacket, and they try to sweat as much as possible because that's sort of, for whatever reason, people think is a sign of fat loss. It's not. What it's actually doing is making your body use the minimum amount of energy possible to execute a function, because if it uses any more than that, it'll cook itself and you'll die. Really, we're just avoiding dying here, and you can use whatever side of that spectrum you want to lose or gain weight. Back to ketosis. Ketosis has an interesting little thing. I don't know how much it affects in the grand scheme of things, but your brain does require glucose to operate properly. It does require a certain amount, and it's less than you'll intake in carbs in a ketogenic diet. So what your liver does is it changes one of the pathways to gluconeogenesis, which is just essentially converting ketones back into glucose so that your brain can operate, and function properly. This process, horribly inefficient, like nets way less than, it's basically like eating a negative okay, maybe it's a little too cold. Eating a negative calorie food, where the idea of digesting a certain food uses more energy than the intaking of the food, and that's sort of what that does. So processing this glucose to send to your brain so that it can function actually uses more energy than you intake to produce that energy. I guess that's all to say, like, cardio is sort of my patsy for this, but you want to chase inefficiencies. You don't want your body to work efficiently if you're trying to lose weight, because you want to raise that metabolic rate as much as you can. And you can do that by being cold, you can do that by ignoring cardio, which you don't want to do forever, but once you hit your goal weight, you can start incorporating it, become a little more athletic. Because that is good for your health. It's just, not good for weight loss. I don't know. I just wanted to make a video to put it out there, because I've learned a lot over the past year, and like being relatively overweight, at least appearance-wise, From 6th to 11th grade, I learned a lot of different hacks and thought about a lot of stuff. And it's New Year's. People are going to be interested, and people are going to be wanting to make a change in their life. And if weight loss is a gateway to that, because the thing about being a little heavier and like not being happy with how you look is you don't want to go exercise because you just think people are going to look at you like being out of shape exercising, and that makes you more insecure, so it kind of chases itself. Whereas if you change some diet stuff, do some fasting, and just wait until you're at a place where you feel confident and you want to go out and exercise to basically show off, like, that's a pretty good place to be. And just like it's a cycle that kind of keeps you out of shape, once you get there, it's a cycle that keeps you in shape. With that, I hope I helped someone out there, someone in my boat. I honestly made this video because I posted on one of those like get 6 packs quick Instagram ads with like basically the same points I listed here, and they just like everyone's like, what, cardio's bad? Wait, you could lose fat by eating fat, and fasting is what? And so I got like 5 or 6 DMs off this post that I commented on with just like basically the same things I said in the beginning of this video. After I explained it like 3 times, I was like, it'd be so much easier if I could just link to all this stuff. So I hope it can help other people that haven't like asked me directly, because it's a lot of powerful stuff. It's subtle, but it's so powerful. Like, I've never known in my entire life that, like, because you know, some people have 6 packs, some people have 8 packs, and the reason why is because your pec can like overlay the last 2 abs. I've never known what I could have because I've never been that thin before. But like a month ago, I found out I could have an 8 pack because like keto helped me lose 20 pounds by accident over 6 months. I don't know, it's 2018, go crush it. 2017 was a pretty good year for a lot of people, so if that wasn't the best year for you, make 2018 make up for it. And if it was the best year for you, then double down and make 2018 even better. So I'm gonna do a really exuberant send off because I'm very cold and I gotta generate more energy so I don't go hypothermic and die. Happy New Year's. This can't be good lighting. There's no way. I'm gonna go here. Maybe here? Maybe this is better? Not that I'm in focus anyway. You know what, we're just gonna try this again. Okay, we're good. No, we're not. I had to close my door. Anyway, so it's kind of fitting that I'm outside and rather chilly, and not wearing too many clothes. What was I saying? I don't know. I'm looking at the floor for answers, and it's not there. Crap, what was I saying? Oh, anyway, so wait, what am I saying?